Most people don't realize it, but the energy you carry says more about you than your words ever will. You can speak the smartest sentence, tell the funniest story, or wear the trendiest outfit, but if your presence is hesitant, insecure, or needy, people feel it immediately. They pick up on uncertainty. They sense when someone is scrambling for attention. And the truth is, the moment you rely on others to affirm your value, you lose authority over the interaction. On the other hand, when someone moves through the world with steady confidence, with calm self-assurance, people notice. Not in an obvious way, but in a subtle, almost uncomfortable way. They feel the difference. They start to question themselves. Why can't I get a rise out of them? Why don't they seem impressed or shaken by what I say? That's the power of a composed presence. This isn't about being loud. It isn't about dominating conversations or forcing reactions. It's about mastering your internal state so that nothing external can rattle you. When you walk into a room and your energy is consistent, measured, and intentional, people start to respond differently. Their opinions of you don't matter as much as the effect you have on their emotions. And here's the key. When someone can't predict how you'll react, they feel subtle tension. They doubt their own instincts. They second-guess their words. They unconsciously measure themselves against your steadiness. Most people miss this entirely because they confuse action with presence. They think being noticed requires movement, noise, or drama. They try too hard to impress. They over-explain. They force reactions. And that effort alone signals insecurity. But the person who moves deliberately, with unshakable composure, doesn't need to force attention. They command it effortlessly. They don't chase approval or validation. They don't need anyone to react to feel powerful. Their value is self-contained.
Here's what's even more interesting. People often interpret calm authority as hidden skill or intelligence. They assume that someone who doesn't overreact or over-explain knows something they don't. And that subtle assumption plants a seed of doubt. Doubt about their own judgments. Doubt about their own behavior. That's exactly the psychological space you want to occupy. It's quiet. It's unseen, but it's deeply felt. And once you understand this dynamic, you realize that power isn't in what you say, it's in how you exist in the moment. The foundation of this kind of presence starts with internal stability. Most people react to the world as if it owns them. Someone criticizes them and they feel exposed. Someone ignores them and they panic. Someone challenges them and they scramble to defend. That constant reactive state signals weakness, even if they're trying to appear confident. The difference for someone who radiates composed authority is simple. They choose which emotions deserve their energy and which don't. They understand that external events are neutral. It's their interpretation that creates tension, excitement, or doubt. Control your interpretation, and you control the interaction. Here's a key point that most people never notice. Subtle composure is more influential than loud dominance. When someone is loud, aggressive, or overbearing, people can resist them. They can fight back, argue, or ignore them. But a person who stays calm under pressure creates a different kind of influence. Their restraint forces others to adapt. Their silence creates questions. Their lack of reaction makes people uncomfortable in the best possible way. People start projecting their own insecurities onto them without realizing it. They start questioning their own status, their own choices, their own confidence. That's how doubt is generated, not through confrontation, but through subtle, steady presence. Another crucial aspect is selective engagement. Most people try to respond to everything immediately. They jump into arguments, they over-explain themselves, they over-apologize, or they over-justify. Each of these reactions reinforces predictability. People quickly learn how to manipulate them. But someone with unshakable presence pauses. They don't feel compelled to react instantly. They listen, they evaluate. They choose whether a response is necessary. That pause isn't hesitation, it's power. It signals that they are not controlled by impulses, external judgment, or social pressure. And here's the psychological secret. Unpredictability creates authority. When someone expects you to respond in a predictable way and you don't, they start to doubt themselves. They try to read you. They test you. And because they can't predict your reaction, they unconsciously respect your composure and intelligence. You don't need to boast. You don't need to lecture. You don't need to dominate.
People sense the difference, and it subtly changes the dynamics of every interaction. Finally, remember this. Composed presence is not arrogance. It's not pretending to be better than anyone. It's grounded in self-respect and self-awareness. The stronger your internal security, the less you need external affirmation. The calmer your energy, the more others question themselves. And when people start questioning themselves, they start giving you unspoken authority without realizing it. Another layer is emotional independence. People who are easily swayed by opinions, attention, or reactions never feel truly grounded. They seek approval constantly, even subconsciously, and that need leaks into every interaction. Emotional independence means you are not looking for someone else to affirm your choices, your words, or your presence. You are secure in your own reasoning, your own energy, and your own path. When people sense this stability, they can't predict you. They don't know what will trigger a reaction, and that uncertainty creates subtle influence and respect. It's invisible, yet undeniable. Next, cultivate selective presence. This is different from being aloof or indifferent. It's about intentionally deciding where, when, and how you invest your energy. Don't overcommit to attention. Don't feel compelled to fill every space with yourself. Speak after pausing, listen with intent, and respond when your input adds value. That intentionality communicates confidence and maturity. People feel it before they can articulate it. They notice the difference between someone reacting impulsively and someone who is deliberately composed. The latter quietly shifts the power dynamic in every interaction. The final piece is mastering subtle influence. You don't need to boast, dominate, or show off. Influence is created when people doubt themselves in comparison to your calm energy. They begin to overthink their own words, second-guess their tone, and unconsciously measure themselves against your steadiness. This isn't manipulation, it's presence. It's simply existing in a state where your energy commands attention without demanding it. You don't need to push, you don't need to force. Your internal stability becomes magnetic. Here's the takeaway. Being magnetic, confident, and unshakable doesn't require anyone else's approval. It doesn't require performance or dramatics. It requires quiet control over your mind, your emotions, and your energy. When you cultivate that, people naturally notice. They respect you. They pause before challenging you. They measure themselves. And that, in essence, is the power of composed presence. It's subtle, relentless, and undeniable. You become the person who doesn't need to prove anything, who doesn't need to chase attention, who simply exists in a way that makes others rethink their own position. That is the ultimate influence, the kind that can't be forced, only earned through internal mastery and unwavering calm.